Good evening, folks, and welcome to evening prayer from Prince George, British Columbia, and the people of Trinity United Church. Every evening we gather together for prayer at 8 p.m. Pacific. It's a chance for us to acknowledge the day that has been, with all of its challenges and opportunities, to name the reality that we have faced. Of course, today is April the 13th, and it's Easter Monday. Historically, it's the day when we're traveling back home, recovering from Easter weekend, trying to walk off some of that ham and scalloped potatoes, or turkey and stuffing, or beef Wellington if that's what you had. But this day was different, because Easter was different, because the world is different. And so today I did something I rarely do. I spent time in the garage working on a project, a spice rack. In the midst of all of the unsettledness and all of the anxiety and the fear and the frantic pace we've set for ourselves, and the constant Zoom meetings that seem to overlap and never end, the ever-growing list of notifications to our inboxes of, come join this next event on Zoom and you too can learn something new while you're self-isolating at home. In many ways, it seems to have missed the point. So today, there wasn't anything online. It's something I think we need to remember to do during this period in our history. We need to remember to take time to do some of the normal, everyday things that bring us joy and comfort and peace. After all, that's why we gather together for evening prayer. Ancient Christian practice grounds ourselves in hope and peace. It allows us to let go of the fear and the anxiety by naming it, and also name the affirmations of the day, the pieces that we celebrate, the glimpses of joy, the moments where we experienced grace, so that they can be the focus of our lives. Today, believe it or not, marks the 40th anniversary of Terry Fox dipping his artificial leg in the Atlantic Ocean in Newfoundland. 40 years later, we're still trying to find a cure and better treatments and better medications and ways of caring better for folks who have cancer. I hope amidst all the COVID news, we don't lose sight of Terry Fox. We don't lose sight of caring for our neighbors, trying to make a difference, even when the odds seem insurmountable. And certainly there is some other good news out there. It seems like in BC, the curve is at least flattening, if not decreasing a little bit, but we also know that that's not always the case worldwide. And so we name the realities that people are still fearful about their futures. We name that the reality that folks are still becoming unemployed, and no amount of government subsidy is ever going to solve that. We acknowledge small businesses that typically operate on very, very fine margins are now hanging on by their fingernails. And that whenever we can, we need to shop local, not global. We name the realities of essential workers that still didn't get today off. We name the reality that folks are doing strange things, partly because there doesn't seem to be as many people keeping an eye on things. And so folks are doing things like starting bonfires with cardboard and setting the steps behind our downtown church on fire. It's a strange world we live in. And then today I saw this picture of a solution to the challenge of not having enough face masks, and it was somebody wearing a hoodie who put their hood up over their head and had taken a glass pot lid, a large glass pot lid, and stuck it inside the hood so they were looking out through it like a window, and then cinched the drawstrings tight and tied it in a bow. I can't remember the last thing that I saw that looked more ridiculous. And yet, I wouldn't be one bit surprised to see someone doing it. It's the strangeness of our world right now. And then I came across a piece from Nadia Bolz-Weber who reminded her readers that Jesus was mistaken for a gardener. If you just think about that for a moment, most of the images that we have of the resurrection are very nice and tidy, they're clean, they're almost sterile. And yet in John's Gospel, Jesus is mistaken for a gardener. I've never met a clean gardener. It's just not possible if you're actively gardening. You might be clean when you go into the garden, I guess, but you don't stay in there very long before you're no longer clean. There's dirt under your fingernails, even if you wear gloves. You've inadvertently rubbed something on your pants or on your shirt or on your cheek. It's just the way it is. Gardening is messy. It's disheveled work in many ways. The reward from gardening is huge, don't get me wrong, but the process of gardening is anything but pretty. And I got to thinking myself that maybe that's not such a bad reminder in the midst of COVID, as people are learning to cut one another's hair or trying to cut their own, as the hair coloring jobs of a month ago are now showing their wear. As folks continue to self-isolate and social distance, we're starting to look a little bit messy. And maybe that's okay. Because out of that messiness comes something new. Messiness is a reminder that God is with us and we're not alone. Out of that messiness is the reality that you can't get to something new without going through that difficult, messy, unsure period of tearing up the ground and planting seeds or bulbs and waiting to see what's going to happen, how many will sprout, will any. Gardening is messy. Resurrection is messy. Maybe that's not such a bad reminder. So this evening we gather together with that notion of Jesus messy like a gardener with dirt under his nails coming out from his tomb. We gather knowing that there are many people who feel alone this evening and unsafe. People who wonder what tomorrow will bring. And we pause. We pause for prayer. And we take a moment to bring all of those names and faces and places and events, not just related to God, but everything and anything. And we hold them in our mind's eye. Let them to our hearts. And we pray. We give you thanks, O God, for the wonders of this day, for the changing of the seasons, for the snow that's melting, for the rain that's falling. We give you thanks for the reminder that life is rarely clean and simple and organized and linear. Rather, it is messy. And the more we live life, the more it's going to be under our fingernails. We give you thanks for the reminder that being community is equally just as messy. And sometimes it means being inconvenienced for the good of many. And so we give you thanks for those who continue to take the self-isolating directions seriously, for those who limit where they go and how often they go somewhere. We give you thanks for the ways we have discovered of maintaining our social connection, even while physically distanced. And we pray for ourselves and for others. We pray for those who are part of the LGBTQAI plus community. The folks that find themselves in unsafe places because of who they are, how God created them to be. We hold their longing for a better day, their anxiety and their fear. We hold their longing to get back to safe places. We hold those who care for us, and the folks that keep the systems moving, keep goods moving. Healthcare systems. Look after those who can't care for themselves. For the staff in long-term care facilities doing the best that they can in challenging and difficult circumstances. Historically understaffed, under-resourced, and yet trusted with looking after our elders. Be near them, O God, and the residents, as story after story of outbreaks in seniors' residences hits our news feeds. Be with our leaders who continue to wrestle with this crisis. Be with those who are unsure as to what might happen when this is over, let alone what might happen while it's still unfolding. Be with our community, that we might be mindful of what it means to be connected to one another, to support one another, to not lose hope in one another. And so this evening, we pray for Betty B. and her family. For Rita T. and her family as they grieve Mike's death. We pray for Jocelyn, Darlene, Leo, Steve G, Carol, Carla and Wally, Bray and Marion, Roseanne, Aaron. Pray for Lee with Dave's death. We pray for their family. We pray for Courtney and her baby, for Rachel and her baby, for Joe M, Karen L, Miles, Jim and Sylvia, Laura B, George C.G., Simon, and the Klon family. And we pray for all of the folks and all of the places and all the events that we carry in our heart. Give us hope, O God. Give us courage and strength and compassion and understanding. Help us to be the imperfect, dirty hands of the risen Christ in the world, sharing the best of ourselves with each other, that together we might build a community grounded in hope and peace and joy and love and justice and compassion and equity. Help us make sure that no one is left out or left behind. For these are our prayers, O God. Amen. Friends, on behalf of the people at Trinity United Church in Prince George, British Columbia, we hope this evening finds you in a place where you can be safe, be calm, and be community. If that's not true for you, please reach out. If it is true for you, and you know someone that you're not sure that that is also the case for them, then please reach out. Together, let's embody what it means to be a community where everyone is wanted, included, and affirmed. It's our hope for you that as this evening turns into tomorrow and the shadows lengthen, that you will find a gentle rest. That you will have a sense of God's grace and love and hope and peace and joy. That the rest will decrease your fear and anxiety and anger and grief and frustration. And in place of those things, you will find energy and courage and optimism and connection. We want very much for you to know that you are not alone. We do this every night at 8 p.m. Pacific. We gather for evening prayer. We share thoughts and realities of the day that has been and hold one another and our world in prayer. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow evening.